Hi, everyone. We're here with Mackenzie Collier as the owner of Unconventional Phoenix-based interior design firm that focuses on bringing fresh ideas to both residential and commercial projects. And what she's going to be covering today is how to create a functional and inspiring workspace which will increase your productivity regardless of where it's located. And she's saying, hey, watch out for those people on the kitchen counter table. All right, take it away.
Awesome. Hello, I'm Mackenzie. As Tanya said, I operate a full-service interior design firm. We do residential, commercial projects. We've been in business 8 years, and we're 7 women. So women run and operated. My first degree is in family and child psychology, and then my second degree is in interior design. So I feel like that really helps me design spaces with people in mind. And so I'm going to kind of talk about workspaces with people in mind. I plan on focusing mostly on individual workspaces, but most of this applies to team workspaces as well if you happen to have a team. And yeah, if you have any questions, let me know. I'm always happy to answer them. So I'm going to do a screen share if I can figure it out. I should also mention that the irony of this is that my team does yoga on Wednesday mornings. So I'm working from my house right now from my own kitchen table. So my dogs probably will bark during this at some point. So I apologize for that. But okay. So let me do the screen share. Okay. Okay, can you see it? Okay, awesome. All right, so this is obviously a very inspiring space. Just start out with a quick quote. I found that the less stuff I own, the less my stuff owns me. So this resonates with me. I'm a minimalist through and through. The more things that you have, the more time you spend managing the things that you have, and the less time you spend managing your business. So something to think about as we get started. How to create a functional and inspiring workspace that'll increase your productivity. So let's start with what a functional workspace is. So I think that it's healthy, it's inspiring, and it's productive. So this workspace here has beautiful natural light, tons of workspace or workstation area, great storage, very minimal kind of color impact, so it's not distracting. It's a really great workspace. So I love that as kind of an inspiration. But let's start with what a healthy workspace is. So I'm going to start out with some statistics and some kind of science. That's my background, and that's where I always like to focus. So elements of a healthy workspace. So between these two spaces, obviously most of us would like to work on the one on the right, which was a client of ours here in Paradise Valley, Arizona. So the space on the left, I know that I would probably call in sick more often if I had to work there. It doesn't have natural light. It doesn't really have anything that I like about a workspace. Space on the right has a lot of things going for it. So let's kind of talk about what that is in regards to health. Okay, so the first, and I think the most important element of a healthy workspace is proximity to natural elements. So what I'm talking about is greenery, fresh air, sunlight, that all is going to help you work more efficiently. So having proximity to natural elements like greenery, fresh air, and sunlight, it's been shown to increase improved well-being by 15%, which I think is great. 6% higher productivity, people who have a view. 6.5% difference in absenteeism. So if you have a team, employees sitting closer to windows are 6.5% more likely to show up for work. It also encourages healthier sleep patterns and fewer sick days. Something to keep in mind if you do have an office with a nice view is just minimizing the glare on your computer screen with either solar shades or window shades, because the negative effects of that can almost outweigh the positive effects or the benefits of having a great view. So keep that in mind. The next thing is comfortable temperatures. So I have definitely had to work in the past in spaces that were miserably cold or miserably hot, actually, here in Arizona. But so keeping a good temperature is really important. Temperatures between 71 and 73 degrees Fahrenheit have been shown to increase connectedness among staff, which I thought was interesting, decrease feelings of loneliness, and increase output and productivity by 150%. So that's huge. So 71 to 73 degrees. When compared with 68 degrees, it decreases errors by 44%, so you're much less likely to make mistakes, and it decreases your sick days. So 71 to 73 degrees. And then the other thing I thought was really interesting, the Smithsonian found that workers who can control the temperature near their workspace have 30% less sick days than workers who don't have control. So even just the perception of having some control over it makes a difference for your team. So keep that in mind. I also wanted to touch on ergonomic furniture. So ergonomics is basically just the design of furniture that supports your body and the way that you move in your space. Just a quick kind of run through of what your ergonomic workstation should look like. Your back should be straight, so your elbows should be close to your body and at about a 90-degree angle. So your table shouldn't be higher than your elbows or much lower than your elbows. You should have a minimal bend at your wrists, so that should be flat, and your forearms should be rested on the table. Your backrest should be supporting your back, so your back should be touching your chair. Obviously, an adjustable swivel chair is ideal. Your feet should be on the ground with nothing pressing on the back of your knees. So that can lead to the numbness that you get in your feet sometimes. And if you can get a footrest that elevates your toes, that's always ideal too. That minimizes a lot of hip and back pain. Let's see what else. Your monitor should be roughly arm's length from your eyes, and the top of your monitor should be at eye level or just below. So keep that in mind. There's actually a really cool website called ergotron.com that you can put in your height, and then it will actually give you the measurements that your workspace should be. So the height of your screen, the height of your chair. So that's ergotron.com. So I highly suggest you check that out. Just real quick back on that. When you do introduce ergonomic furniture into your space, productivity goes up by 17.5%. Employee injuries go down by 33%, which is huge. And it increases employees' engagement and satisfaction because people are focused on their work and not on their achy back. So definitely consider that. The last thing I want to touch on about a healthy workspace is cleanliness. So according to the University of Arizona, they did a study that they swabbed 4,000 surfaces in different workspaces, and they found that the average office toilet seat has 49 germs per square inch, where a desktop surface has 21,000 germs per square inch. So shocking, horrible, but phones are even worse. So 25,000 germs per square inch. So definitely wipe down your desk, keep it clean. We encourage you not to eat at your desk. That's what draws a lot of bacteria to your desk. So go take a walk, get up from your desk, and take yourself out to lunch. So influenza can sit on your work surface for up to 24 hours. That's something else to keep in mind. So a lot of companies are adopting clean desk policies, or CDPs, which basically make it mandatory for their team to clean off all the clutter from their desk and wipe it down every day. And that obviously decreases sick days, which is great. So keep that in mind. So let's move on. So a couple other considerations about a healthy workspace. So I always encourage my clients to source sustainably sourced furniture. So what that means is FSC certified woods. You want to avoid adhesives that have a lot of chemicals in them, anything that's going to off-gas into your space and make it an unhealthy environment. And it's also just better for the environment. So look for sustainable furniture. You want to keep the office space free from hazards like tangled cords and unstable furniture, that put your team at risk. And you also want to ensure that your space is designed to be universal. So it should be accessible to people with all kinds of disabilities. So whether they're deaf or blind or in a wheelchair, if you have a workspace, it should be accessible to everyone. And definitely consult an interior designer if you have any questions about that, because we're all very well versed in the dimensions that things need to be to keep everyone comfortable. So the last thing is just consider all 5 senses when you're thinking about workplace health. So you want to avoid the smells and the temperatures and the sounds that make people uncomfortable. So keep that in mind, kind of give yourself an overview of what your workspace, how your workspace kind of ranks with all 5 senses. So think about that. Do you guys have any questions so far? Good. Okay, cool. Okay, so the elements of an inspiring workspace. So this is a little more fun. So now we're kind of getting into the fun part of interior design and workspaces. So let's see. So these two spaces, obviously, again, I would want to work on the one on the right. The one on the left is dated, it's cluttered, it's it's not inspiring in any way. So it's really important to create a space that inspires you to do your best work. And here's how we do that. So, so again, I want to start by revisiting the five senses. So when you design your space, you want it to activate all five senses. So whether it's a scented candle or a texture blanket, like whatever you have in your space, there's been a big movement toward workspaces that feel more like home in the last 10 years. And I think that's a good thing, because I would much rather be at home than, in, that 1990s workspace that's, a cubicle or doesn't have windows. So think about creating a workspace that feels like home to you. You want to maximize light. We do this with mirrors, and then also by using atmospheric colors. So anything that would occur naturally in the sky. So whites, grays, light blues, those are good colors to use on your walls. They're going to expand the space, make it feel bigger, and it's always going to feel fresh and crisp. So that's a good place to start. I always tell my clients what's not in the space is equally as important as what is in the space. And what I mean by that is you can pay an interior designer hundreds of thousands of dollars to come do your space and put all this furniture in, perfect art, perfect accessories. And then if you bring in your clutter on top of that, or your art from college on top of that, that doesn't jive with the overall look, you're taking away from it. So, and it's just not going to be as effective as it would have been with just the design in its place. So be sure to be keeping things out of the space that don't belong there. So you also want to keep a visual reminder of your why. So why is it that you show up to work every day? Why is it that you're hustling, to make this dream come true? So I always like to make sure that that's in my sight line from my seat, so that I remember when that, nasty client calls, or when something happens, why I'm sitting at my desk. So for me, what that is, I'm a big traveler. So I have a little keychain that says adventure that just sits on my desk next to my plants always. So it's a perfect reminder of why I'm doing what I'm doing. So the last thing is just let the space reflect you. So it should reflect your accomplishments, your achievements, your interests, anything that inspires you, and let it evolve with you. So I always recommend leaving some space blank on your walls and on your desk, so that you can kind of just change things up and let it evolve with you. So yeah, so it's really important to have an inviting space that energizes you and motivates you when you go in. There's nothing worse than opening your office door and immediately feeling defeated or uninspired. So design can go a long way toward making you, want to come to work, for sure. So a productive workspace. So I don't know how many of you are guilty of this. The desk on the left. I see it all the time. We do a lot of corporate spaces, and I'm always surprised, like even in like a really high-end corporate environment, there will be this person. So obviously that person is wasting a lot of time looking for files. They're looking for documents. They're spilling on things that are important. It's not an effective way to work. So the one on the right is obviously everybody's kind of goal, everything in its place, and it's organized, and this person's not going to have trouble finding what they need. So when you're planning a productive workspace, it takes a lot of thought and consideration. So the first thing I always like to do is make a list of all the functional needs that you have. So what you're doing every day. So if you grab your mail every day and come and sit at your desk, you should have a spot right there where your mail goes. If you always have your keys and your sunglasses in your hand, have a spot where those go. If you have a meeting with 2 employees every Monday, make sure you have 2 guest chairs. So just think about all the functional needs that you would want in your space. Make a list and then just address each one by one. And make sure that the layout and the furnishings support everything that you do all day. Another thing that I think a lot of us, including myself, struggle with is finding a space that's quiet and free from distractions. So I have a team of 7 women. We sit at a table together in kind of a bullpen workspace, and a lot of times it's really distracting. So I actually do a fair amount of my work from home, and because I do need that space that's quiet and free from distractions. So if you can get that at the office, that's one of my goals for this quarter. So if you have that already, you're a step ahead of me, but it's important. you want to make sure you have storage and organization solutions that are easy to maintain. So if you have a giant file cabinet that's beautiful and perfect, but it is across your office, the chance of you standing up and going and filing your papers every day is slim. So you want to do things that are really easy. So for me, that's having like a pedestal under my desk. So I've got 2 file cabinets within arm's reach that I don't have to stand up to file. So so that helps me a lot. You want to design a space that's also flexible and adaptive so that it can work in a variety of situations. Like I said, today my team is doing yoga. So we have our workstations on wheels, our pedestals are on wheels, and it all pushes to the side of the office and it becomes a yoga studio. So it also works really well for events. If we have events called wine and design events where we teach people design practices. So they come in and it easily transforms to an event space. So you want to build in that flexibility when you're buying your furniture and your accessories. The last thing I always suggest is incorporating both workstation and lounge seating in your space so that you can kind of move around throughout the day and have different vantage points. A lot of people just get fatigued from sitting at their desk, day in, day out. But if you have a sofa or a lounge chair nearby where you can put your feet up and work on your laptop, that's always good to have that flexibility. It's better for your body, better for your brain, and better for your work. So let's talk about effective organization systems. So I think this is where a lot of people struggle. And so, like I said, first start with making a list of your functional needs and then addressing each one. And this is something that I don't know how many of you will actually do, but I highly recommend it. And I do it once a quarter. And it really helps me stay organized. Move all the way out of your office and then move back in. So you want to take every single item out of your office space. And the first few times you do it, it's going to be hard. And then the more you do it, the easier it gets. So take everything out. And then as you're moving things back, ask yourself if you really need it, if you really use it, if it deserves to be in the space. Because like I said, the more things you have, the more time you spend managing the things you have. So if you want to be efficient, having less things is a great way to start. So move all the way out, then move all the way back in. And as you move back in, make sure that you have enough storage for the things that you need storage for. So I always like to divide things into piles and into functions. So for example, if I, needed to hand draft something, I have an entire box that's just full of my hand drafting supplies. So rather than walking around my office trying to track everything down, in 10 seconds, I have everything that I need for that activity. So divide it by activity, divide it by function, and make sure that everything's kind of out of sight when you're not using it. Practice minimalism. I'm going to repeat that time and time again with all my clients, and as I preach the good word of minimalism. So have less. You really, really don't need as much as you think you do. You don't need 400 half-working pens. Like, go through, test your pens. If they work, keep them. If they don't, get rid of them. Just have less. Digitize your documents whenever possible. My team, we have our interns scan everything into Google Drive files, so that keeps less paperwork around the office. And then also when we're out and about with clients, we can always access the drive and have any files that we need. So I highly recommend that. The last thing is to keep a third of your storage space empty. So you need to have room to grow. So as you organize, if you move back in and everything is full, it's not going to be long before you have piles on your desk. So leave a third of every single storage space just empty, and it'll make you feel less stressed, and you'll have room to grow. So just some habits that help with organization. So daily, I was a nanny for 12 years. And so we always did the cleanup before you move on to playing something else. So that's something you need to do as an adult too. So clean up one task before you move on to the next. You also want to create structure in your schedule so that you can build really healthy daily habits. So that obviously will help you in your work, in your work that you're actually doing, but it also helps in your space. So for me, I get my workspace back to 0 before I leave every day. So everything gets put away, my desk gets cleared off, wiped down. And I actually really love that feeling of I'm usually the last one to leave the office, and I look back and it's all clean and nice. And in the morning I get to come in and just focus on work and not feel overwhelmed immediately. So I highly recommend getting at least your work surface back to 0 before you leave. And I suggest keeping a single letter basket on your desk for any active documents. So don't make piles, don't make multiple piles. You're never going to find what you need when you need it. So keep a single letter basket with what you have active. And then every week you need to file the things that you're not using away. So weekly, back to the health thing, you want to sanitize your work surface and all of your equipment. Open windows and doors to let some fresh air in. That really changes the way your workspace feels. Water plants, and definitely have plants. They really, make you feel a lot better. And they increase, they've been shown to increase your health. So definitely have plants around. As I mentioned, file any loose paperwork and put away anything that's not in its proper place. And the last thing is update your visual accountability tools. So I don't know how many of you have whiteboards that have, last quarter's goals still up on them. But if you make a weekly habit of updating that, that's good for you and your team. I always like to go in on Monday mornings and make sure that our whiteboard is totally updated and ready for the week. So quarterly, like I said, move out and move back in. That helps a bunch. Donate and sell anything that you aren't using regularly. Just really minimize what's in the space. Reevaluate your functional needs. So maybe your needs changed and, you need some new furniture, you need to change your furniture. So keep that in mind. Excuse me. And the last thing is just change up the color palette to suit the season. I always recommend having a really neutral color palette. So buy your furniture and you paint your walls in a kind of neutral palette, and then just have a few accessories you can bring in to change the season. So it's really fun to go from summer to fall and fall to winter. And again, that kind of motivates you to come into work. So, something as simple as a different color of artwork, really helps. So definitely allow your space to change with you throughout the year. So we have a blog on our website if you want any other design tips. So it's MackenzieCollierInteriors.com. We also share tips on our Instagram at Mackenzie Collier Interiors. So does anyone have any questions about workspaces?
Yeah. So if the people who are at the kitchen table, what would you recommend for them?
Let me take off the screen share. How do I do that? Stop share. There we go.
Yeah, there
okay,
we go.
Perfect. Awesome. Sorry, what was your question? One more time.
So with the people who, because you spoke about that, like right now you're at your kitchen table. How do you keep yourself organized right now?
So I think it's really important to get back to zero at the end of the day. So don't get up and walk away and leave stacks here. Because your work is going to melt into your daily life, and that's stressful. So you always want to keep it separate. Even if you have to say set up a closet in your house as your dedicated workspace, it's really ideal to have something you can close the doors on and then relax. Because if you can't have that separation, you're never going to feel rejuvenated. So I think get the separation, clean up after yourself. And I think all of the kind of design elements really still apply. So you want to have less in the space, you want to have good light, you want to have natural fresh air coming in. Pretty much all the same design elements still apply.
And how do you separate yourself from being, right now you're in your kitchen and transitioning to just regular life? Or do you have a way of going about that? Because I noticed that some people who work from home are just kind of they may have that one room and they may they don't know how to stop thinking about business or doing business. So how do you go about it? Curious.
Well, I mean, for me, I do need to have an office. So the first 2.5 years I was in business, I worked from a home office. And I found that, Friday night when I saw the email come onto my phone, I would stand up and go in the office and, handle it. And I didn't have very good work-life boundaries. So for me, I needed to get the office so that I would do that. And then that kind of broke my bad habits of not having the separation. But I would say, really, I think just putting it away and having those really clear kind of more emotional boundaries than actual physical boundaries with your space, of just, knowing that it's work time or it's play time, and not blending the two.
And for those who are going to cafes and working from there, what would you recommend in the sense of monitors or trying to get yourself all aligned?
That's tricky. Yeah, because it breaks pretty much all the rules most of the time. You're usually sitting in a hard chair that, isn't supporting your back, at a tiny table, with your paperwork in an awkward spot. So really, I guess, research. Especially if you're in New York City or, a bigger city that has a lot of options, research and find places that have great workspaces that are quiet, that are, a comfortable height for you, that have good light and that you're really able to focus on your work. But it's tricky for sure. And also just get up and move around. So if you are in a space that's not uncomfortable or that it isn't ideal, get up and move around throughout the day and just make sure you're kind of maintaining healthy work habits.
Okay. And do you believe in the feng shui or anything along those lines? No.
I don't. I believe in good design. So, I mean, feng shui, if it's your thing, great. But I personally just think good design is what supports people and makes them effective. So I think that maximizing functionality and efficiency and just creating a space that energizes someone, I mean, I'm sure you agree that like your attitude about your work is like 90% of the battle. So it's not really always about the workspace or how functional it is. It's about how you feel when you go into it. So if you can create a space that when you walk in, you feel energized and motivated, then I think that's solving most of the problems. So for me, like this space that I'm in right now, I can show it to you. I'm in my family room, but it's got pool view, yard view, and good light. And then I've got a cabinet over here with these things that inspire me, all things from my travels. So for me, even though this is my kitchen table, it motivates me. And that's my why right there, you know, so that I can go travel and it's all right here. So yeah, I think just creating a space that reflects you and motivates you is the number one most important thing.
Great. And David, do you want to show her your background? Here's this background of the beach.
I want to see.
David. There we go.
Oh, I love it. That's good real estate. I love it. That's funny.
Do you have any questions, David? We can't hear you. There we go.
You can hear me now, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, sorry. I had a Yeti on mute. Yeah, but you can tell it's the beach, right? You can tell I have a great oceanfront view.
Yeah. What is that?
Do you think it's really the beach?
I wish it was.
Me too. Me too. I don't know if I'd be on the call though. I would never be on the call if it was on the beach.
On the beach.
Yeah. So I have a question about lighting because I just have like the regular fan and things like that. Does lighting make a difference?
It totally does. It's going to make a huge difference in how you feel. So there's different types of lighting. There's task lighting, which is going to be the lighting that's on your desk and directed at whatever task you're working on. Then there's the kind of ambient lighting that's up above. So ambient lighting is important for kind of just illuminating the space, but you definitely want that task lighting to eliminate eye fatigue and headaches. And you just feel better when you layer light. So natural light, ambient light, and task lighting all layered together is going to create a welcoming feel. So definitely do that. And the temperature of the light also really matters. A lot of the ceiling fan lights have that really warm kind of yellow glow. And so if you can do daylight bulbs or like a warm white bulb, that's going to be the most motivating and the most kind of energizing light. So yeah, something to think about.
Great.
Do you have any other questions?
I'm looking around my office going like, man. Like as you're talking, I'm like, yep, there's a stack of papers. And I'm trying to get away from paper, just go all digital.
Yeah.
But people hand me business cards and it all stacks up and the crap and I just throw it all away.
Yeah, there's scanners that you can do the business cards. There's even apps you can take pictures of business cards and it'll put all the information in for you. So yeah, there's lots of ways to do it. It's just practices. It's creating those daily habits of every day having a time that you do it. So for me, that's the beginning of my day and the end of my day. So like first 15 minutes and last 15 minutes are me kind of opening and closing my space and kind of doing those things that I need to do. Because otherwise, it's not going to happen. So yeah.
How do you feel about pets in the office?
I love them. I have a 13-year-old golden retriever that is my head of security, has been. So yeah, I mean, people will have arguments about, you know, allergies or pet dander. So obviously if you have employees or team members who are sensitive, be mindful of that. But beyond that, I think it really, you know, increases everybody's happiness and productivity. And honestly, we've actually gotten clients who've seen my dog on our website and have been like, wow, that's great. Like, you know, we know that you're really friendly because you have a golden retriever. So it works. So yeah. And plus it's just great to have a dog around or cat.
Yeah. Like if you're not, like if you don't like dogs, then you probably won't get hired, right?
Exactly.
Sounds like a good philosophy to me.
That, right?
Sounds like a good philosophy to me. Yeah.
Heather, do you have any questions?
Mackenzie, you did a really good job. I mean, it was a really thorough presentation, but very similar to Dave that I'm looking around my office and thinking, oh, it's time for me to reorganize and
overwhelmed. Yeah.
And just kind of get things put away. And I really like the, you know, where you were like, if it doesn't really serve a purpose, like just get rid of it, because I feel like I have things on my desk that used to serve a purpose that no longer serve a purpose. And so, yeah.
A lot of people hang on to things for sentimental reasons too. And I always remind people that like the memory is yours. Like you have that, you don't need the thing, you know, the thing is just the thing. And, you know, you can always take a picture of it and you have the picture, you have the memory. You don't necessarily need to be, you know, to have every surface covered in things. So,
right. Yeah. It was great. Thank you.
Awesome. You're welcome.
So last question, Mackenzie, what are some colors that you should have in your office?
Yeah, so color psychology, I could talk a whole class about that. It's really interesting. So it's personal and it's subjective. So it's, you know, while green might mean one thing to one person, and there's all, you know, on Pinterest or wherever you are, there's all these charts of, you know, green means success and money, and red means, you know, you're hungry, and orange means energizing. So remember, first and foremost, it's personal. So always start with neutrals. I always like to create a really neutral backdrop. And then for the color accents that you bring in, make sure that it's something that you've loved your whole life. So for me, that's like turquoise and blue and green. So I love those calming natural colors. So make sure it's something you've liked your whole life. And then beyond that, warm colors and really saturated, vibrant colors will be energizing. They will be motivating, where kind of grayed out, more muted colors are going to be more relaxing. So if you are a really keyed up person who's, you know, needs to chill, then put the, you know, the greens and the blues and the grays in your space. If you tend to be really relaxed and you are looking for some inspiration and want to be motivated, put some, you know, orange and lime green and red and yellow into your space. So, and also just be mindful that certain colors tend to be more cheerful. And so again, they're going to make you want to come to work. So some spaces just have, like, you know, say if it's like that, like wine color, like burgundy, or like very serious dark greens, like there's an argument that those are perceived as powerful. And, you know, if that's the role that you need to kind of be portraying, then there's something to that. But I would always prioritize your happiness in your workspace over what you're trying to convince people about you. So be authentic in your design and in your space. So. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. I always wondered about colors. Great. This was so informative. What was that website again?
Oh, ergotron.com. So yeah, and you just click on your height and it tells you all the dimensions of your workspace.
I think that is the hardest thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been still working on that one. Right now, monitor's down.
Mm-hmm.
Thank
and
you so much. Sorry?
I was just going to say, if anybody has any questions, feel free to email me or message me. I'm always happy to talk design. I love it. So yeah.
Amazing. Thank you again.
Yeah. Thank you. Great job.
Thanks. You guys have a good day.
Bye.
You too.